it's just a letter of opinion about a landmark place. No action is required. I assume everyone got that, saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing really to be done, but just for the record, submitted to this committee. Next up, we have a Dock Street project proposal that Alderman Schabot would like to bring forth. Steve, you want to introduce the gentleman and begin the proceedings?
Actually, I talked to these gentlemen, Steve Croner, Jeff Hurst. They have made a proposal for down on Dock Street for dock rentals. I'm going to actually, I think you made copies for everybody, right?
Yes.
A brief proposal. If you want to just explain, I mean, I think it's a very interesting thing.
Proposal? Because we didn't.
I know we gave out 6 copies of the proposal back in February over here, so I don't know what.
I gave copies of the drawings, I only have one.
Okay, wait, hold on 1 second.
Okay. I need to speak to this before they make it.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Because the process, it just tells you. Sure. Okay. We currently have this available space down at the Rondout. If the council is interested in entering into a lease for further docks utilizing this space, we really have to do a request for proposals, and any qualified vendor has to have the opportunity to submit a proposal for that space. Allowing a particular vendor to come in and make a proposal prior to an RFP being sent out is problematic in and of itself. There are also some significant permitting issues that have to be addressed before any proposal can be considered. I believe that there was some discussion between the mayor and Mr. Prosser and Mr. Hurst about what those permits would be required. And to the best of our knowledge, none of that has been secured at this point. But the decision the council has to make at this point, before hearing any specific proposal from any specific individual or entity, is whether you wish to solicit proposals for that space of dock and whether you want to look into leasing it. And before we get to that point, before we get to the point of choosing who would lease it, an RFP would have to go out.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to circumvent anything. I just want to kind of move this process along. They have made, what I, again, consider a pretty interesting proposal for usage down there. Whatever has to be done, I'm sure the gentlemen are agreeable to do whatever they have to do to get this done. I just want to make sure everybody is clear about what has to be done. Let's come up with a timetable when it has to be done. If it has to go out, then it'll have to go out, and they can submit a bid for it also.
And that's what the council needs to decide again, is whether or not they want to direct or ask the mayor to ask Brian Waltman to send out an RFP.
Okay.
To utilize that space. So that's what, that's the first step.
So is that a motion and a vote that we need?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's your opinion on it? Like, what's everyone? Can we hear at least kind of what they're? Because I don't know. This kind of was sudden, so I'm not.
Well, you're basically giving one vendor in a potential RFP an opportunity to present their proposal without other vendors having an equal opportunity.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So where's the property? How much is it? And whose property is it? What is it? It's just city land that's just sitting there on the rundown?
And yeah, what Steve outlined here is fairly accurate. There is approximately 200 feet of vacant space between what is currently leased and I believe it's Hollywood. And if that is owned by the city, and if the city or the council has an interest in entering into a lease with a vendor to run that for commercial purposes as a dock, we certainly can do that. But any qualified vendor has to be given an opportunity to present proposals in the same manner.
I get that. What would be a disadvantage, or what would be a drawback of doing that? I mean, obviously that's been sitting there for a long time with nobody's done anything on it currently, right?
You know, it's empty space.
No, you've been in a lease agreement with Hideaway for the space that they're using for nearly 10 years.
On the other end, right.
For nearly 10 years.
Correct.
And to my knowledge, they have never approached the council to lease more space in the last 10 years. So if they were interested in leasing more space, I believe they would have approached you to ask for more.
Okay, so
Same goes.
it's next, it's right next to me.
Right.
Okay.
It's between the,
It's between the new
between
fishing
City
dock,
and.
between the new fishing dock you put in and Hideaway.
Right.
And as for permits, the DEC will not start the permitting process until we have a tentative agreement from the city that if we proceed through, if we get a tentative approval from you, then they will take time to do their part of it, as far as permitting. I mean, obviously, we can't start any construction until, you know, they allow us to.
Correct.
But they will not allow us to until you tell us that we can, with their permission.
Right, and the timetable for securing the permits and the process for securing the permits would all be part of the request for proposals that would be sent out, you know, by the city to any qualified vendor. When we leased out the city dock, if you recall, we did an RFP, we received a number of proposals, and, you know, we selected the most viable proposal. It would be the same process. You also have the BMX lease on the agenda for this evening, and if you recall, we did the same thing for the BMX lease. We sent out an RFP. You know, we only got one request, and we only got one proposal, and therefore, you know, the lease was given to BMX, but everyone has to have the opportunity.
Okay, and so I understand, are you saying it's a point of procedure or point of order, whatever, as to whether this gentleman can speak to us tonight, or is it?
My concern is that them speaking about their proposal when a formal RFP has not been sent out is potentially compromising the evaluation of the proposals that come in response to the RFP. So, I mean, general terms about where the piece of property is, what it's currently being used for is perfectly fine, okay? But anything about specifics that would be
Well,
included
I
in
would
an
like to hear
RFP.
some of that, because
Yeah.
this is all new to me,
Right.
and, you know, there'll be more of this as we get into the RFP process.
Yeah, we just have to be really careful in terms of evaluating a single individual's proposal when, you know, there hasn't been an RFP sent out.
We approached you about leasing it out. You didn't put it out as, hey, does anybody want to lease
And
this?
that doesn't change
So
anything.
we've started the process, and now you're going to invite other people in to take over what we've already started and has already hit the papers.
It's a requirement for, you know, leasing government property. We can't just go to an individual vendor or respond to an individual request. We have to put it out to see if there are other individuals who are interested. And there's a same possibility that you'll be the only one, you know, but if other individuals are interested in leasing that property, they have to be given an opportunity.
What does everyone feel about that? Is that, we support doing an RFP, getting an RFP out there for that?
Well, we're gonna
Getting
do
the
that
clock
for the
started on
ball
it?
field too.
For what?
The ball field, the park we're just taking.
Well, I don't know. I asked that question when we were discussing the ball field. I really didn't get an answer on whether we had to send it to an RFP or not.
I don't think you have to, right?
Well,
Similar
if
to-
we're doing it for everybody else, why wouldn't we be doing it for the Little League field?
Let's just focus on this.
Yeah.
So if you make a motion for an RFP on this, I'll be happy to second
Yes.
it.
All right, I'll make the motion. Oh, I can't make the motion.
I didn't even read a resolution yet. Can we at least wait a week?
Well, I didn't think we had a resolution.
Well, I'm writing one up now. I just have a
Okay.
question. In what direction from the Hideaway Marina is that? Is that,
Would be east.
East from the highway.
so resolution to request an RFP for 200 feet of vacant dock space on the Roundout Creek east of the Hideaway
It's
Marina?
actually vacant seawall. There's no docks there.
Right, it's a bulkhead.
It's just a bulkhead.
Oh, okay,
There's actually an aerial view, this gap right here.
okay. 200 feet of, just vacant, can remove dock, then just vacant space on the Roundout Creek east of the Highway Marina? Is that read
Yeah.
okay?
And west of the fishing dock.
Okay, going to read it again?
Yeah.
Resolution to request an RFP for 200 feet of vacant space on on the Rondout Creek, east of the Highway Marina. Someone on the committee want to make a motion? Can I get a second? Okay, on to the question. Any further discussion? I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we've at least got the clock started.
Is there a time frame for when that
Yeah, that's a good question. How long is this, does this process?
I talked to the mayor, we talked to, Brian, and, Brian can put it on his to-do list. I mean, how many he has in front of it, I don't know. 19.
Okay, and then are they for a certain amount of time?
For the snow goals.
It depends how they write it up.
It depends how they write it up.
Because obviously, if it's something that's gonna take a while, and they lose most of this summer, then it's gonna, if it's something that carries over the next, couple of years or however many years, right? I mean, I assume they're all different, but is that something that's done on an annual basis, or?
Well, it's up to you what you decide the lease you make.
Okay, so then we.
I would think
we
practical matter, it would have to be for more than 1 year.
Yeah, sure.
That it's already, the minimum
Right.
rate. And, would have to justify the investment. Would have to do more than 30 again. We went through all of this with the BMX. How long was the BMX lease for?
I believe we
How
gave
long was the
you,
BMX lease for when we did that? It was 3 years, I believe.
I don't even know longer, I'm not sure. I think it's at least 3.
well, you already have an agreement in place with Highway, you can do something similar to what they have, which is a renewable lease. The precedence has already been set, you already put it out there.
Yeah, I think the BMX, that's a renewable one also.
I
But,
don't know what call specifically, I see it's on the agenda for the renewal this evening. Do you have a copy of it with you?
no, that's one of the things I didn't know that was gonna be on the agenda till late in the game, so, no. I mean, as far as I know, that's just a discussion, but, anyway, let's move on to, thank you, gentlemen, and,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah, and we have, Steve has your contact information when the RFP is ready to be sent out. It'll either be on the solicitation list along with whoever, the purchasing department ascertains, could be interested in, there's a process that has to be followed.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay,
Thanks for coming.
Julie, you wanna try to find a room in here on the,
Okay,
you're up next?
do you want me to come to the?
You okay there?
Yeah.
Either way.
It's cozy over there.
Okay.
Okay, so I apologize to those of you that I'm speaking to back. So in 2015, local law number 3, the city adopted the local law to establish a sustainable energy loan program in the city of Kingston. So we've had this local law in place since 2015. It is administered locally and also by the Energy Improvement Corporation, of which we are members and have been members since that time. This local loan program basically is called PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, in which up until now they've called what they're now calling the 1.0 version, where if you want to do energy efficiency improvements or renewable energy on your home, you can put the cost of that project on your tax bill. And so that means if you decide to put solar on your house and you move 5 years later, then the fee, the cost of that project stays with the building as opposed to staying with you, it goes on the tax bill. So we have not had a huge response to this program in the city of Kingston. It was also adopted by the county and many other municipalities throughout the state. There are many, many municipalities that have adopted this local law allowing this to be the case. To date, there have been 2 in Ulster County, 2 projects that have been successfully completed. One is very, very close to here, 446 Broadway on the corner There's a solar array on the roof there that was done through the through the PACE financing. And the most recent was the Bread Alone building. So Bread Alone out in the town of Ulster just put on a large solar array that was financed through that same program. I'm here because in September of 2017, the state modified the law on their level. So that was through Article 5L of the New York State General Municipal Law. And they made a few modifications such that in order for our law to continue to be accurate and for us to continue to utilize this program and have access to this, we have to modify our local law. And to do so, they have outlined, and I will just describe to you what the changes are. All municipalities that would like to proceed with the PACE option have to adopt the local law exactly as worded, and also modify our municipal agreement with the Energy Improvement Corporation. Just so you know how it actually works, so I decided to put solar on my home. The price of the solar, it gets paid for by the Energy Improvement Corporation. They pay directly to my solar installer. The fee, the fee for the whole project goes onto my tax bill. When I pay my taxes, I pay a portion of that over a period of time. So John Toohey gets my that amount in my tax bill, and then we get invoiced by the Energy Improvement Corporation, so we pay them. We are just a flow through of the money. So the city doesn't lose any money on the project, it doesn't gain any money on the projects, but it allows an opportunity for financing for residents and commercial businesses to make energy improvement and renewable energy changes. So it is something that is very attractive in the area, but doesn't have any fiscal involvement or change on any of our budgeting, besides the fact that we flow the money through to the EIC. So just to give you some information about what I did circulate, what I'm proposing here is for us to adopt the PACE 2.0 version. I'll go over the changes in a second. I have reviewed all of the changes that are here. None of this was up to our discretion. The changes specifically were sent to us by Energize New York, who manages the project, the program. I reviewed all of this with Kevin Bryant in Corporation Counsel's office. I sent the changes as we modified them, which basically said that we accepted the changes and inserted the city of Kingston where we needed to, back to EIC, which had to approve our changes so that they know it's consistent with everyone else's changes. They approved it. And so now the next step is for the council to pass a resolution which would establish a local law, amending local law number 3 of 2015, in which time then it would go to, you would have to, of course, have your 2 readings and adopt that local law. The mayor would sign off on the modified municipal agreement, and we would send these changes to the EIC. If we choose not to do it, we can still operate under PACE 1.0, but the funding source for that will run out by September. So it behooves us to make the changes. So the changes, which if you have in your packet, I hope that that was circulated. There was a memo to EIC members. So the Energize New York and the Energy Improvement Corporation met with several of us city staff in December to go over the changes. And we've made these modifications since then. This outlines very briefly, and I will go over very briefly what the changes are. One is that previously there was a 10% cap on the project, so the project could have been 10% maximum of your property value. This now raises that to 35%, so really it makes it a much more viable option. The second is that previously the requirement was that power generated from renewable energy systems had to be used at the exact location, but this modification allows a process called community solar, where you are able to use the solar in another location, or get solar, buy into a solar system in another location and use it on your property. The third is that it adopts the positive savings to investment ratio, in that the cost savings now needs to be over the life of the project, while previously the cost savings needed to be annually, which was very difficult to achieve. So now it is cost savings over the life of the project versus annually. The fourth change is that the tax is now placed on the bill at the beginning of construction, while previously it was done at the completion of construction. So this now allows folks to be able to finance through the construction process as opposed to financing on their own and then being able to pay after the fact. The fifth modification is that it allows the state, allows the use of state and federal sources to fund the PACE reserves. So there's a larger pool of money that is able to be pulled into the larger process that is creating the loan, and it creates the opportunity for municipalities with lower credit ratings to participate in PACE. So what I'm asking is that I would love for you to adopt, in your packet, I put together the local law. I also put together a resolution which includes the local law embedded into the resolution. And so it would be, I'm asking for you to adopt this resolution, which would adopt the local law amending our existing sustainable energy loan program local law.
Are there any questions? Julie? These are all based on changes in the state that we just have to kind of get on board and comply with. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's just,
They sound like all upgrades from.
these are all upgrades. We've reviewed it. There doesn't seem to be anything that would be negative to us. Again, it's zero financial impact to our municipality, and it's only an advantage to our constituents. So this is strictly to be in compliance with the state's law that we were, certainly everyone was in compliance with until they changed it.
Julie, when you're talking about cost savings, could you just speak to that for a second? I didn't really.
The savings to investment ratio, that part of it, the change to the cost.
Right.
So previously, let's say I put a solar array on my home. Previously, under the PACE financing program, you had to realize savings within the first year, which is not realistic. Or let's say I insulate my attic. Many energy efficiency projects take several years for payback. And so this new format allows that payback to be over the course of the project. So let's say if your solar panels that you're putting on have a 20-year life expectancy, it would be over the course of that period of time, as opposed to having to pay back within the first year that you put them in, which is not really very reasonable.
And that would be transferred.
So there's no actual cost savings. Basically, they're not going to give you the loan unless you're going to be able to prove that you're going to have a cost savings over the life of the project.
Okay. And this can be transferred to the next homeowner because it's in their tax bill. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I buy a house with this solar array on it, I get the bill.
If they went through this financing loan option, yes.
If the previous owners did that, then
Yes.
I understand that that'd be part of my purchase, right?
Yes,
It
it
has
would
to be
automatically be assumed that just,
Oh, it has to be disclosed, right?
yes, it would be
At the
close.
purchase,
Kind of hard to miss it.
when it's on the roof.
Well, we wouldn't be able to assume that any solar array would be,
Yeah.
they could purchase it outright. They could have paid it through their own financing. And it applies to more than just solar, but yes, it would be disclosed at the closing or whatever in the process of purchasing. You could also really look through, speak with our comptroller's office and understand if any of the properties you were looking to purchase had any of these property assessed clean energy loans associated with it.
And what are the rates on these loans? Do you have any idea? I mean, I didn't hear anything. Is there a number that's?
I don't know the answer to that offhand.
Just wondering.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not really something, I just wondering.
I do not know the answer to that offhand.
And why is there only 2 people buying into this thing so far? Is there like roadblocks that people are coming up against, or is it just not known, or?
I think that it's probably just not known. We haven't done a big push to get it out there. We just haven't had the capacity to do that. The county hasn't either.
Okay.
I think it's just not known.
All right.
And I think that really with these improvements, so, allowing it to be 35% of your property value is huge
Yeah.
compared to 10%.
It's a lot more attractive,
It's a
yeah.
lot more attractive.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
Do you have a committee report?
I do not.
Okay, would you like to Let me know how you want to
Sure.
write that up.
I'd like to propose a resolution
To amend,
Oh, wait, have it?
this one.
Yes.
Okay.
The whole thing should be, right?
I'm sorry?
Well, we can attach all this,
Yeah,
but,
you didn't attach all of it.
but are we actually creating a new
Right.
local law, or we're
Yes,
just
so
amending
your
a term? So we're not amending one, we're creating.
You're creating a new local law, I have created it, but you're adopting a new local law that replaces and amends the existing local law number 3 of 2015. So in your resolution, the new local law is embedded into that. There are very minimal changes in terms of the overall language, just basically what I just spoke about.
So we're amending and replacing local law,
Number 3 of 2015.
okay. Jim or Dan, this is for you. What I need to include, like pursuant to provisions of the New York General Municipal Law, or can I just say per attached?
Well, you have an attachment number 2, which kind of spells it out right here, so I'll go to the attachment.
So you can just say, the resolution to adopt a local law to amend and replace local law number 3 of 2015 as per attached.
Yeah, attachment number 2.
Yeah, that's all.
There's an attachment number 1 in the original, and an attachment number 2 that changes.
Attached, and I'll attach that to it. Okay, again, resolution to adopt a local law to amend and replace local law number 3 of 2015 as per attached. Can I get a motion?
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
And around the horn you go. Jim, you have those handy when that goes around, can you put that with that, or? Sure. Would you want your copy?
And I almost looked like they had resolution already typed up here.
Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sufficient, just like that.
Yeah.
So attach that with the 2 attachments?
Yeah, you can-
Okay.
2 attachments.
Yeah, since I got the other piece of it, I'll just throw mine in there. Actually, she did that, so we're good. All right. All right, the last thing under new business, this is kind of a late addition, I apologize for that. It was also a late addition for me as well, but it has to do with the aforementioned BMX lease renewal, which is not real time sensitive, but for those of us that were here for the last one, it got pretty late in the game before we started talking about this, and with the BMX, there are a lot of like national events that they hold, and so it is important that they do get kind of a commitment in advance of when the lease runs out, so they can plan these events, because they do quite a bit down there. So basically, it's my understanding, we're just trying to get a little bit ahead of the game and get try to get some information out there for the people who are not aware of what that's all about.
Yeah, definitely. I just kind of want to, start getting this in everybody's mind, that it's going to get here, quickly, how time flies. And as Bill said the last time, I think Bill and myself and Dan are the only people in this room who were here the last time. But the lease expired before we started working on it this time, which, created various problems. However, we did get it accomplished finally. And the only thing I am going to put some editorial comments in here. They did sign a lease, but I think their lease kind of, they're being maybe held to a higher standard than a lot of people who use city property. They pay a fee. They are required to sponsor a bidding league team. They are required to have a Kingston Recreation Night with all proceeds going towards the Kingston Recreation Department. They're required to attend Recreation Commission meetings. There's several things in it, and they don't mind doing them, but I think they should be, they're kind of voluntary, demanding people make contributions. Maybe not how I feel it should be done. They don't have a problem with it. I've spoken to them numerous times. They're happy to do it. They're very community-minded. They've been down there since the 80s. They've made substantial improvements to the land down there, which is to our benefit, at the end of the day. So there's various things I'd like for us to start looking at the lease. Before the lease expires, maybe we can get something new. As Billy said, part of the process, they do have long-term goals, such as putting in bids for national events. The last event they had here, they had 1,700 riders. That's a lot of people coming into the area. That's just the riders, and that's not families. So every hotel in the area was booked. Restaurants were booked. You couldn't get reservations. There were a lot of people here for that. They were here spending money. And, BMX is happy to share the wealth with us. They make donations. After the event was here, they made a substantial donation to the rec department. They have free events for kids down there, sponsored by the rec department. They really do a lot for the community. They haven't asked for a lot in return, only to use the field down there. They pay for their own utilities, I'm quite sure. So anyway, I just kind of want us to start getting this in our mind and, have discussions before it gets late early. All right? It'll be honest before we know it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Everybody, I'm sure, must know about BMX, what they do down there. I'm pretty involved with them. I go down to a lot of events. So if anybody has any questions about what's going on with it.
What are the lease terms?
Yeah.
Well, it was a 5-year lease, which will expire, I think, in 2020. And I'm only, time is not of the essence, but at some point, time will be of the essence. So, we want to make sure. Last time it took a long time to get this all ironed out.
What are the financial lines?
Do you have the lease with you, Steve?
Do what?
Do you have the lease?
I don't have the lease with me. I'm doing this from memory. It's a 5-year lease that they have right now. They have to pay, I believe, a $700 fee every year for that. They pay all their own bills down there. They're required to sponsor a bidding league team. They're required to have a Kingston Recreation event down there, with all proceeds going to the Kingston Rec Department. I think it actually says it might be a term of their contract, I don't have it, and I'm not going to swear to this, that they have to appear in the Children's Day Parade also. So those are a few of the things. We can take a look at it. I have
Steve, you were here, were they things that they said they would do, and
There
you
was
guys
an
said
R-
okay, or
There
were
was an
they?
RFP sent out, there was a request for proposals sent out for use of our
And
property.
they said, well, this is what we'll do.
And they said, this is what we will do, okay, they were the only
entity who submitted, and the agreement was entered
And you guys said,
into
okay, great.
in accordance with their proposal. I don't
Well,
recall-
I don't know if it was a break. They did it.
It was their proposal, yeah. So I don't recall whether or not, and I didn't realize this was on the agenda, when was this aired?
It was supposed to be
I
in
found
last
out
month,
today.
but then it was 5-1 this month that it was, communication was sent.
Yeah, basically, we have to, I would pull the release and I will see what it says about renewal. My recollection is there was some renewal term in it, that, with regard to how the renewal process would work. And that might just be, simple, and it could be more complicated, but if there's any request to change the terms, we're back to the fact that it was the result of a request for proposals, and this is what they proposed. And you can certainly release them from the agreement or not renew it and send out another RFP, and presumably they're the only people who are going to submit a proposal again. But,
You can't amend these things?
not
Can't
when it was-
amend
No, not when it was a result of a, competitive request for proposals, and, this is what they submitted, and this is the agreement that was entered into. So, you can you can not renew it and send out a new RFP. But we can't just relieve
Yeah,
it.
just amend it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can only renew it as is.
I don't have the document in front of me, so I don't know exactly what it says about the.
No, I don't want to get into
Yeah.
specifics, but if we want to renew it as is, then we can do that. If we want to change it, then.
Again, I don't know I don't have the document in front of me, so
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
don't-
what it says about it.
I'm quite sure there were no subject to any, I don't think renewal was discussed in there.
I mean, you said yourself, April 2020, that's 2 years from now, so putting it over till next month and getting a copy of the lease and cloud
Yeah, that's fine.
processes is not.
Yeah, I just want to
It's not gonna delay
kind of get
this.
this moving along.
But I think that lease also should be compatible to the other properties that don't have leases that need leases, like the other parts that
Absolutely,
we.
yeah.
So whatever we do, we should have it fair and across the board, you know what I mean? They all should have to apply for the same.
And we had a fairly torturous discussion about that issue at the time with the BMX lease, to try to, put in place some sort of uniformity with regard. You have it.
That's all we need.
Jeez, she is good.
I think from our standpoint now, to me, it's just a matter of, when, at what time frame do we need to start looking at this more than really trying to hash something out now, because there is time, but, we definitely want to, start looking at it earlier, certainly than we did last time, but I don't know, I don't know how soon we.
The term of this agreement shall be for 1 5-year period commencing on April 2015, terminating April 1, 2020. The city, at its sole discretion, shall have the option of extending this agreement for additional 1-year periods. So, that's pretty clear. We can extend it.
So after that, we
So we can only extend it 1 year.
At our sole discretion. If you wish to give them a longer period,
But you can do that 5 times.
yeah, you can do that 5 times. You can do that 10 times.
Dan,
Yeah.
does that mean we have to only renew it as written?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds true to me.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds like anybody who has plans for like a 5-year plan for this BMX park, that doesn't sound like something that.
No, it's not a good,
It's not a
1-year lease is not good for a 5-year plan.
No, it's
Right.
not.
And we had a long discussion about this at the time, and that's why they had asked for 5 years as opposed to a shorter term, so that they could
So
put
they
it in
may
place.
have to.
Yeah, they may have to, they may have to come back and ask for, a longer extension. In which case, we can, do another RFP, and they can submit another proposal that, eliminates some of these provisions if they consider them onerous, and, there can be a discussion. This took how long?
Anything else? Oh, this took forever, I know.
I did.
Yeah.
And again, like Steve said, it was way beyond when it was, so there was just a big area where there was like a lot of uncertainty and, it was tough, because a lot of things were hanging in the balance, a lot of people were hanging in the balance. Anything else, Steve? Any other comments or?
Steve, have you spoken to them about whether they want a longer period after 2020, or whether they're satisfied with the,
No, they definitely want, they would like to have a longer lease for long-range plans. I mean, they have a lot of things, and really, they can't bid on tournaments without a lease, so they can't bid on a tournament for 2 years from now unless they can show that they are allowed to use the property.
So it might be better for them to try to redo this now, right?
well, they can't redo it until April 2020. The contract is in place until April 2020.
Okay.
They can certainly request that we do not exercise our sole discretion to continually renew it for a year. And then it's up to you whether or not you want to go along with that, because under the agreement, you have the authority to keep renewing this for 1-year periods, pretty much infinitum.
But are we saying if we don't renew it according to the old contract, it's gonna have to be put out for an RFP?
That's, and that would be a fairly simple process, given that the previous RFP, is already in existence, and they would just have to,
I mean, I don't think they're in danger, nobody
Nobody
bid
bid
on
last
it
time.
last time, I
And
don't
that
think
was
anybody would again.
Right.
And then they could, that would be a way that they could get a longer.
Right. All right, well, I can discuss that with them and see how they feel about that. Whether they want to roll the dice and hope nobody else submits a proposal down
And if they do that, they can always add, instead of just, one, after their initial period, instead of just a 1-year renewal, they could, ask for a 3-year renewal, 3 years after we could, or something like that, nature, just extend it, so they have a little bit more certainty each.
Which maybe we want to do whatever we can to give them strength in their negotiations with whoever grants these tournaments and so forth. I mean, they've been around a long time, and they're valued here. I think we want to help them, absolutely, and not having to, go through this year after year after year.
there. You want to make it easier on them.
Yeah.
I mean, and we want them bringing in these tournaments, because that's a lot of revenue that comes into this city. So we definitely want to make it user-friendly for them.
Okay, anything else, any other thoughts on that?